Hey, it's Jen. This is the Bible for Busy People podcast, and the year is coming to a close. I can't believe it's been almost a year since I took over hosting duties for the lovely Erica Parkerson, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Researching and recording this has become such a needed part of my spiritual practice. My faith has been growing so much as we go through these studies, as we dig deep in the Bible, and I hope that yours has been expanding in the time that we spend together, even for just a short time in a busy day. I hope it's encouraging you in your spiritual journey, and the things that we study are leaving an impact on your heart the way it has for me. This week, we're sharing some favorites from this past year. Enjoy, and we are going to catch up in 2026 with some new episodes.
Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Sometimes the simplest stories leave the most lasting impression. Hey, this is Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People podcast, where this week we've been talking about the I am statements that Jesus made that are written in the book of John. Now, our kids and many others have loved the show Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and I can attest how catchy their songs are. Like, they will get stuck in your mind forever and ever. But I found out recently that a recent study done by UCLA shows that teens who watch Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood as kids still remember the songs and the stories. And they claim that they've been helped in social, emotional ways and with life skills because of these songs and stories. These are just simple storylines. They're relatable for kids and they're memorable. I would say that they're relatable for grown-ups too. It really holds on to Mr. Rogers' tradition of speaking directly to kids and helping them to work through their big feelings. Jesus used a similar technique when he spoke to his followers. Today we're reading in John 15, and in verse 1 it says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more faithful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself, it must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples." Now, Jesus, as he often does, uses common everyday imagery. And that's just one more sign to me that he made the gospel accessible enough for people to relate to if they're seeking. Jesus wants to be found, and he wants to connect to us. He's not trying to make it difficult, which we'll talk about in a minute. And this approach is in itself really contrasting to the Pharisees' approach, which we see in Luke chapter 11, verse 46. Now, there are 2 points of this passage that I feel like I have gotten wrong in the past, and I'd like to reinterpret it from what I used to believe. That's something that I kind of did yesterday, and I'm going to go with today. Do you want to try this with me? So, first of all, I would have read this passage in the past and thought, okay, so if I do more good things, it must mean that I am fruitful and connected to the vine. However, Jesus isn't saying that here. Jesus says that we cannot bear fruit by ourselves, and apart from him, we can do nothing. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, haha, pun intended, and say that when Jesus is talking about producing fruit, he isn't talking about the good works that we do. He's not telling us to do more or to be better. He is telling us that remaining in him results in bearing fruit. That's kind of the opposite from what I was thinking, which was if I bear good fruit or do lots of good things, I will remain in him. This might be a hint for what Jesus means here. The Greek word used for remain or abide is meno or meno. I'm not quite sure about the pronunciation. But it can also mean to stay or to continue or to dwell or to endure. Also, the vine is a branch's life source. Staying connected or attached is the only way for it to be sustained and produce fruit. So I can see this as meaning that depending on Jesus as our source of life, knowing him deeply and following his lead is what produces the good fruit. How do you do that? How do you depend on someone or know someone deeply? Well, I would say that you would spend time with them. You would go to them first for connection and for help. You would listen to their words and trust them. My relationship with my husband is that way. He is the number one person that I go to, the number one person that I get help from or ask questions. We listen to each other. We trust each other. And I think the same goes for our relationship with Jesus. Even though Jesus isn't right here sitting next to us, we can still have that kind of a relationship with him. Now, I don't know if I have that perfectly, but this way of thinking makes more sense to me than keep doing good things. There's so many verses in the Bible that talk about our good things that we do. They talk about how our good deeds are filthy rags before God, that our mouths can say one thing, but our hearts can be far from him. Jesus spoke about how we could claim to have done many great things, but he could still say at the end of the day that he doesn't know us. So it is really not about us or what we do. Also, for a plant to produce fruit, it needs to be provided for in some way. Grapevines take a lot of work, and it's not the vine itself that does the work. That would be kind of crazy, right? It doesn't prune itself. It doesn't water itself. It doesn't create the right conditions for itself. All of that happens outside of itself. And yes, technically fruit can grow uncultivated, but just go with me here. We reap the benefits of seeing lasting fruit that comes through us, not because of all the work that we did. It comes from believing and staying connected and open to God. I also used to get from this passage just this terror of not producing enough and this fear of being cut off from God. I felt like I was constantly trying to prove myself as an abiding Christian, and I was worried that I would miss something and end up being cut off. But like we talked about earlier, Jesus used these analogies to meet the average person who is seeking. God is not trying to trick us, and he's not rooting for us to fail so he can cut us off. More often in Jesus' analogies, the harshest words he had were for those who claimed to be righteous but were actually causing harm. And I think this passage works the same way. Why would Jesus intentionally plant seeds of doubt and insecurity in us? If he wants us to abide in him, if he wants us to find him, if he prepared a special place for us, if he's the good shepherd who knows and cares for his sheep, why would he plunge us into fear that we could misstep and lose our connection with him forever? That's not who Jesus is. Later in the passage, he talks about keeping the commands to remain in his love. But let's think about what these commands are about. They're really about loving God and loving others, about not putting anything before God, about not treating our neighbors with malice, about taking time to rest and simply be with God, and to honor your family and honor the people around you. Jesus set the example in loving God so much that nothing else came before him. He did what God wanted him to do and said what God wanted him to say. He took special time away with God, and he treated others with love and with care and respect. We are not meant to do miracles or live up to some kind of crazy high standard, and God's not waiting for us to trip up. Love God, love others. Good fruit will come from that mindset. How do you view this passage? Have you viewed it one way or another, like I shared, or maybe different from both of those ways? What does it mean for you to remain in Christ's love? I will leave you with that today and this weekend, and I will be back again on Monday to talk with you more on the Bible for Busy People.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.